Five, four, three, two, one. And we are live. Whenever you are, wherever you are, thank you for joining this Design of Everyday People live stream where I talk to senior designers from all over the world and where you get to literally ask them anything. So get your typing fingers ready while I weave in the question as we go. But like always, let's start making this session as interactive as possible and tell me where you are tuning in from. And I'll try to bring you up on the screen. And again, you can test my flag knowledge or just go hard in the comments chat. I want to see that there's someone else at the other side of this. Okay. Anyway, without further ado, let's get started with this conversation. This is the design of everyday people.
It sound right, boy.
All right. Do we have anybody in the chat? Come on, someone blow up the chat, please. Come on. All right. So YouTube and LinkedIn, I'm going to wait for you guys. But as I wait for you, I'm just going to introduce today's topic. And today we're talking about how to organize your work in Notion. And I'll start with quick introductions. I'll go first, like always. I'm Chris, the fan of UX Playbook, but before that, a self-taught designer struggling to get into product design, UX, and all that stuff. But now I spend most of my time helping designers navigate a fuzzy UX career with UX Playbook, which is somewhere, let me change that, which is somewhere here if you're interested. And from building your first portfolio to leading your first design team. But that's enough about me. Today we have a special guest on here, Jenny Famularcano. I've already screwed it up. I'm sorry, Jenny. Let's do that again. Oh God, this live thing. Okay, Jenny Famularcano. Okay, again, Jenny. Jenny, you're gonna have to correct me when you come on because I'm butchering this. Jenny Famularcano. Okay. All right. She's a designer, educator, and a Notion consultant. So let's get her out and say hi. Hey, Jen, what's up?
Hello, Chris. You did amazing. The first one was a little rough, but you got the name. You stuck the landing. You stuck with it. That's what matters. It's Jenny Famularcano. You got it. So
Okay, thank you for letting that one slide. Yeah, I'm very bad with pronouncing names, but thank you for coming on. Really excited to speak to you. So for the folks that don't know you, why don't you tell us about yourself, and we can kind of like start there in this conversation.
yeah, of course. So I'm Jenny. I am an ex-agency designer. I was at an agency for about 8 years, and I somehow found my way into becoming a Notion consultant where I help businesses and individuals build a flexible system so they can get their creative projects organized. And I don't think I've said that ever out loud in its entirety. I feel like you write it a lot online, but yeah, that's what I'm doing these days. And right now, I am currently working on building. I've been working a lot with clients with a lot of different agencies and helping them get organized. But currently, I'm building out Creative Flow Academy, where I'm actually helping individuals build out a flexible system so that way they can get their own creative projects organized, their own knowledge, so that way they can figure out exactly what they would like to do moving forward. So that is currently what I'm working on.
Awesome. Before we sort of get into this, and we spoke about this, previous to the live, which is, how did you sort of stumble and discover Notion as a tool? And I guess, why are you such a big champion of it? Like, let's hear the origin story because every superhero has one, right?
Yes, absolutely. And what I started as an agency designer, I was there for a long time. And I think when you're working at an agency so fast paced, they're constantly throwing projects at you, and you need to be able to take all the content documents, get the feedback from your art directors, get the feedback from the clients, all these different people, and somehow figure out what you're going to do next. And because there were so many things running around, I felt like I needed to figure out how to way to slow it down because as a creative, we can only like take in so much information before we get overwhelmed. And so I started utilizing Notion. My friend had introduced it to me because I was a very big fan of the illustrator who did the brand illustrations. But I used it as kind of like how I organized myself. And even though I had a producer, we had a project manager, I wanted to be able to know exactly the information that I at least knew. So that way I felt really confident in those client meetings. And I knew exactly, okay, this is where we pivoted. This is what we said previously. And this is how I incorporated it into my deliverables. And I started doing that. And the more I got confident, the more people realized. And I was just like, I was killing it, for lack of a better term. I was like really excited about my work. Um, and it was getting to a point where I was freelancing on the side that somebody I had freelanced with was reached out and she was like, you seem to really love what you do. Like it was just something that she noticed, and she became my first client where I was helping her. Or I think I had helped her organize her email first, but then I eventually helped her build out her Notion system and organize her notes. She's a filmmaker, so I think I was just very impressed that somebody that didn't have to like that didn't know me like needed help in that department. Because when you're so into something, when something feels very natural to you, you don't realize how other people experience it until you share it and put yourself out there. So,
Yeah, sure. Great. That's awesome. That's really cool. So that was the origin story. Okay, I want to obviously get into the weeds of like what you did and how you're using it now, and also how folks can also use Notion to sort of organize
yeah.
not just their work life, but their life, right? But before we do that, let me just quickly introduce the topic. So I know
Yes.
many designers like me live in chaos, right? But um, I also am a super huge fan of Notion. Like when I found it and adopted it over time, it's literally changed how I've worked and also my business, right? My business is also built on Notion because I'm also lazy and it's just the most intuitive way to get it out there as quick as possible. So that's why I invited you on because you are the expert, you're the consultant, and we want to dive into three things, or at least touch on these three things, which is establishing your structure, collaborating with others, and actually getting things done, and of course everybody's questions out there. So, and yeah, like get into the weeds of like sort of building that system that actually works for you, not just looks minimal, because you know you can make Notion as complex as you want, and it can seem like not the Notion that you're used to. So if you're drowning in tabs and to dos out there, and a big Notion fan, you'll love this convo. And I just want to remind the folks out there that if you want to go and replay this, it's on YouTube, because everybody always asks every session. So, and yeah, if you have any questions as we speak, please drop them in the comments and we'll get to them. All right. So the first thing is you mentioned that you heard about Notion because you love the illustrations or the designer behind the illustrations. Um, was there something about the product itself that you really liked at first? Because for me, a designer on my team introduced it to me, and I just knew it as the note-taking app. Like, was there something about the product that you were like, oh, you know, this is quite cool, or the philosophy of the product? Because you know, when you listen to the founder speak, there's a lot about you know Notion and the values and the mission. Was there anything that kind of like stuck out at you that you're like, oh, this is quite interesting?
Yes. So you're right. I originally I think I was attached to it because Roman Muradov was like one of my favorite illustrators, and my friend knew that, and she was all like, "Hey, you should check this out." In terms of like the product itself, I had been using Evernote for years, trying to figure out how to get all of my notes in one place. And I think when I had like first interacted with Notion, I was like, wait, what is this? Oh, it's like simple. Like you can control what you can see. And as designers, being able to focus and create that hierarchy so naturally was just like bar none. Haven't seen it before. We already are so good and inept at being able to do that in our work, that to have a tool that also responds well to that was just amazing. And I think with Evernote, if you've been on it before or if you haven't used it, it's very folder based back then. And I haven't been in there in a while, obviously. But it was very folder based. So it was very like siloed and very like, okay, this is the folder, you put it in, you put a note in, and it's only in there. But with Notion, it almost felt like it matched the chaos that existed in my brain, because it's like, okay, I have this project database that's connected to this person, connected to this client, and then for all of those different areas you had them be like part of bigger systems of contacts or your project for your capacity. And because of how flexible it was, it made it so you never had any limit to making things work together. The only limit was just understanding the tool, and it got really exciting at that point. I was definitely procrastinating on a lot of my client work, just trying to uncover how to get things more aligned to how I envision it in my brain. And I think it just made it like there's still nothing that I can find that is limiting to what I can build in Notion. And even though my clients definitely make me feel stumped a lot of the time with it, it's still very exciting because I'm like, I want to get stumped because I feel like I know a lot, but we always push all of the boundaries of Notion to the edge with those conversations and with those requests. And because of that, as a certified consultant and an ambassador, we like consultants come back to Notion and we're like, hey, we need this. Page level access was a feature that was without we requested like years ago that we're finally starting to see. And even now we're starting to push the boundaries of what that means for how to use a program. So I think Notion has this really great ecosystem of users and consultants and ambassadors, and Notion themselves, where we're all starting to really create a relationship that is crafting this really great ecosystem and this really great community of people who love to do things, great work.
Yeah. Notion's community is like just so amazing, and the people that champion the product is just second to none. We had a comment here, which is Jenny literally helped me lay the foundation for my biz organization. That is awesome. That's good to see. Thanks for jumping on and going hard in the chat. We appreciate that. Yeah, a quiet day today, guys. A quiet day. So feel free to let us have it if you disagree or agree with something that we say. So okay, let's get into our kind of first like in the weeds thing, which is establishing your structure. How do you go about doing this when you're with a client or when you're sort of advising other folks in terms of like laying the foundations?
Yeah, I think so. This is something that I learned at my agency for building out projects, was very similar to the road mapping process that we might be doing in our client work and developing that experience. It's like, okay, what do we want to accomplish? What are the things that are required for us to get this thing done? What is the minimum viable product, MVP, of this system? If I want a task management system, I need the tasks and the projects, but of what properties do we absolutely need? Because projects for one person can include the client information. Maybe we don't have that. And the bare minimum is like for tasks, we need like the deadline. So we need a date property. We need a status. Do we need the way? So it needs to be connected to a project. Do we also want to relate it to the client? And where is that information going to be living? Is at least at the project level? Or do we want to have more information on the relationship with the client? So it can obviously expand as big as, when we're building out a roadmap for our design projects, that scope can always balloon heavily. And so what we need to use, like I tend to use that ability to help understand, okay, what are the properties that are absolutely necessary for these systems? Because sometimes we can get distracted by what Notion can do. and we just need to do the work, and we just need to keep what's absolutely important in accomplishing that goal, and then we can add on later as necessary or when we find it out, because we may not always know. Um, and so the way that I like to go about it, I like to do this visually, at least for myself, because as a visual person, it just makes me happy. And so I just do like a bunch of like index card styles on FigJam, where I'm just like, okay, this is the database. These are all the properties that I know, and then move on to the next database. And if there's not that many databases, then you don't need to do that much. But oftentimes you just want to know exactly how that information can be interacted. So you're building your systems before you're even hopping into Notion. And sometimes that's even better for people who are still new to Notion, so they're not distracted by all of the different things that it can do, because they know what they need to accomplish. They know less about how to use Notion and what's possible there. So it's fun to think about how it's being done in Notion at this level, and that's where I come in. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like that the sort of the initial audit process of like what we're trying to do, what things do we care about, that goes like, for example, a task management system. You really need to kind of like do that groundwork in order to understand, in order to also not over engineer and get distracted by the tool, as you were saying, and build as you go. Because again, once we start kind of like adopting a tool, we always try to stretch it. And I found myself also over engineering some of like a launch plan. And I'm just like, I don't need everything to connect. Like, it's just me. Like, why am I overcomplicating it? So that makes a lot of sense to me. Definitely some things that
Yes.
I've learned as well. Yeah. Mhm.
Absolutely. And I think the difference is designing for you. My Notion system is crazy because you are also experimenting with what you can be tracking. And so oftentimes I would go back into these trackers, these dashboards, these databases, and be like, what the heck? What is all this stuff that you just like created out of nowhere? And so one way that I like to clean that up is, one, hiding it if you're like not sure if you want to keep it, and then having another view of the table. So then that way you can filter where things are not empty, and you can decide, no, like there's only 2 entries in this property, let's just delete it. Because if you're creating a bunch of mess in this space that is supposed to be safe for you to think and do your work, then you're just creating work. You're bringing the chaos into this your clean desk, your clean area. So you just need to clean it up. But I
So,
do that all the time.
yeah. So I have this like one example of like the mess that I've created over time is I have a LinkedIn content calendar, right? I've been posting for like, let's call it 3 years, like every day. And there's multiple things sometimes on a day or whatever. But the property
Wow.
list has stretched to potentially, I'm gonna say 30 or 40 properties. That most of them are like default hidden.
Yeah.
So it just happens. Like, I don't know what I was tracking at the time. I don't really even remember because the labeling was so bad. But that was
Yes.
obviously my fault, right? But I'm like, what's going on? So it does kind of run away with you. So I think
Yeah.
one of the things I want to do this year is like spring cleaning my Notion, just
There you
everything,
go.
which is I think it'll be a fun activity, even though I'm yeah, like there's probably other things that I should do, but this just gives me peace. So
Absolutely. And I think one way that you can approach it, because you're already make 3 years, is that you said 3 years every day of content? I mean, congratulations, first of all. But since you're already in there every day as like so frequently, you can even just start by using section groups to create. I don't know if you were using that already, but you click on this invisible button that says customize layout when you hover up at the top,
mm,
and you create section groups for your properties. And what you can do is you can create a section group for like your archive, and then a new one that is like your active properties. As you're pulling and referencing those properties, you can drag what you actually use to the top, and then naturally all the things that you don't touch will just go to the bottom. Because I'm pretty like I'm pretty anti do a whole overhaul of spring cleaning, because you don't know what you're going to need until you need it. And
mm,
sometimes it's just natural to just like, okay, let's just graduate all the things that you are using to the top. and doing it that way. Because otherwise, like, what if you're going to use that someday? Or what if you did use it and you just don't remember at the time? But yeah, I think that would just be, and then that table view that I had shared with you
Yeah.
about creating another view so you can filter out those properties to see if you can delete it safely. Those two, I think, will help a lot. It's going to be because it's a long-term thing and you don't want it to grow to 30 properties again if you don't want it to. So it'll just be
Yeah.
helpful to always just keep it
Yeah.
clean that way.
Yeah, I haven't really messed around with the sort of like customized layout. Like I've looked at it, I've like kind of, but I haven't like actually adopted it in part of the workflow or part of the system, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, when a new feature comes out, you're always excited to test, but that's a really good pro tip. I'm going to do that. Yeah, because again, it's not just me working in the calendar. Um, it's like, I'm collaborating with my team, so therefore, if I do just go ahead and delete something, someone's gonna, like have at me, so that is a good tip where I can just graduate the active versus the archive. Okay, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that.
Just gonna
Yeah,
throw some tips at you on
yeah,
our
yeah.
chat
Please,
sharing.
please do.
Okay.
Establishes a structure. Is there anything else about structure that people usually kind of mess up or get wrong, or like
Mm,
overthink, or like something that is like, like a common myth about like, starting. Like, let's just say I'm completely new to Notion. Like, are there some pitfalls that I should avoid?
yeah, I think a lot of people tend to be very attracted to, okay, what can Notion do? Because maybe they've invested in doing like they've enrolled in it, they subscribe, they even have business because they're interested in AI. And I think one of the things that I hear a lot is like, okay, just show me what it can do. And I think that can be a fallacy sometimes to just do what it can do, because what it can do and what you need in your experience, that might be two different levels of what you need. Yes, it can do all these things, but you need to get up to that level of experience. Otherwise, if say I don't think most people have access to the agents yet where it can edit. But like once you start introducing things like automations, then it's creating things that you have no idea is creating like automation. It can technically actually no, there are automations in Notion right now. So it can technically create new pages in a database that if you don't know where it's happening or why it's happening, then you're just creating a bunch of noise and you're like, what the heck? And it's different than say like Zapier, where you're able to kind of like review the different logs. They're trying to get better at it, but at this point, those automations can be running, and you have no idea this database is getting full of stuff that you don't even know. And thankfully, they're not limiting the amount of pages that you create in Notion, but that can get overwhelming. And so, oftentimes, I would build this really complex system of something that I know can be used in Notion, and then I have a client who's like, okay, I have no idea how to use this. And so there's that ramp up period of let me learn how to use the system that somebody built for me. And it's doable. It takes some time, but it takes a lot of one-on-one time to be able to learn how, like, where they need to tap to do certain things, where they need to drag. Like when you all of a sudden have this giant complex system, it can be very overwhelming. So the way that I like to approach it is like just focus on one area that you absolutely need to do your job, and just start transitioning and gain that understanding of how Notion can support you. Focus on your job first of all. Don't let Notion, like, you don't have to be a Notion consultant. Like, it's not it's a whole other thing. But just focus on what you need to accomplish, and then start building complexity once you're like, I can do more, or I feel confident in this. What else can we do? And I think that slow build is like more important than all of a sudden landing this giant system that is amazingly powerful that you'll never touch and then fall off. So I think that change is something that I've witnessed in so many different people. But I think people are scared of even just jumping in. So I think don't underestimate what even 30 minutes with somebody can do, because you'll just feel like, okay, I know I can tap where the imaginary hidden button of customized layout is, because it's not visible. You have to like hover up to the top in order to see like add cover or add an icon. And even on like the blocks themselves, you don't see where you can grab it until you hover over it. So there's a lot of those things that you just need to like, it's almost like wandering out in the forest. It's like, what's over here? Like just trust that there's discovery to be made. And once you get that, then you can navigate pretty well, I think.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, so the other scenario is like we we've laid down the foundation of our structure. We've kind of like slowly migrated our workflows inside Notion, but the other hurdle that comes up is like collaborating, right? Because work doesn't happen in silos. You need people on your team. You need to invite them to documentation. You need to like do stuff together in a shared space. So, what do you have to say about that? Like, as let's just say for someone that's maybe newer, and then we can kind of dive more into like the advanced stuff.
Yeah. Um, for creating spaces for people, that's where like things get tricky, because then you have to think about, are they going to be a member? Because then when they're a member, you have to pay for their seat, and that can obviously get crazy. For guests, sharing something with them, I even think that when you're starting to just introduce sharing things with people, just share without them being able to edit anything. Just like give them visibility, because they're gonna get so overwhelmed so fast. And if you think about them as someone who's just viewing this landing page that you're creating for them, then you're going to take a lot more care in making it nice for them. Like think about when you welcome people into your home, how do you want to make that experience more enjoyable, to assess their needs and what they're going to be asking you, or what they may need at any given time. And so I think if you treat your landing pages, your Notion pages in the same way, you should have no problem in crafting pages that people will be able to use to accomplish what they need from you. Um, but I think that's a good starting point, because when you start, I think like one of the things that I've faced when introducing Notion pages to teams, or like people who are being shared to these pages, they can tend to over design a little bit without even getting feedback from the instructor on like, or the clients or whoever they're building these portals for, on what they need at any given time. So then they tend to be over, like again, over engineered for what they don't need. Most of the time, they just need to see what tasks are assigned to them. That's it. And if it's a pertaining to that project, then it can be linked to the project page or nested within. I think that's all they need most of the time. So they only need to see like percentage of the full system that you have. So crafting like filters that are based on me, like me as I don't know if you've used that filter before, but if you filter based off of the word me, it'll whoever signed in will see what they're assigned to. So if you have multiple members, whatever they see will just be the ones that they're assigned to, which is like a really great way to not need to worry about individual dashboards. Um,
And you can lock those filters so it's uneditable, right? Permission wise. Yeah.
Mhm. So then there's like something like you can only have most members, like they can only view, they can only edit content, so they can't change any of the views. Another thing that I think many people don't utilize is like private dashboards, because if you're a member and you're a member of someone else's Notion workspace and you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much stuff here, you can create your own dashboard with pages that you have access to and create filters, views. You can make like endless pages for yourself, utilizing content that you already have access to, but it's your own view of those things. And that makes it so you can work in your safe little hub, your own little safe space away from the giant dashboard that might be overwhelming, and create something that is very personal to you and get messy and take notes that are just for you. Because that's how I started too. And I think people don't like realize how much connection can happen as long as you have access to it. Like people think you have to just stay within the system that was designed for the team. And maybe the people who are members of your team don't know that they can create their own private space. And I think that people need that safe space in order to feel like they have control over what they need to accomplish and what they need to do in their work.
Yeah, yeah, that makes
Yeah.
total sense. And I think one analogy that popped up in my head as you're saying, when you're sharing, make sure you're kind of doing like view only. It's kind of the same like sharing your like Figma file. You know, if you've
Mm.
ever shared like the actual file and granted access, you know something's going to go wrong. Somebody's going to change something and you're going to have to figure it out versus like sharing a prototype or just like one screen where people can actually comment on, whereas like they can't change anything and it's like a controlled environment. Because
Yeah.
I know designers get really stressed out because everything is like multiplayer now, right? Multiplayer mode. And the danger of that is like someone's actually working in this space and things are like, there's real stakes. And then someone else comes in not knowing that there are stakes and they just kind of add something and you're just like, no, you've ruined everything. So that makes a lot of sense. That makes a ton of sense.
Absolutely.
There,
I-
there was one thing that Notion released, I believe it's either this year or last year, which is their homepage, right? Uh, yeah, so this reminds me of what you said, which is the like personalized dashboard. I think they're trying to have a crack at it, but I don't actually find it as useful because I'm guessing if it's like a blank page, you can actually make like literally customize the home. With the homepage, it seems like it's locked you into some environments that are just like, here are a few things you can do, and that's about it. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes, absolutely. And I think for those who are unfamiliar about the homepage, if you click on home at the top left, there's going to be a bunch of like areas. They pull from some of your information. But I also don't use it very often because I think because maybe we just use it so much that we're a little bit more on the power user side
Yeah.
that we tend to find that limiting. But that was introduced, I think, maybe last year.
Okay.
In response to people starting to feel overwhelmed with Notion. Like most people who are brand new users, they don't know exactly what they like need to know about Notion, and many of them needed to figure out how to get a bunch of like say if you have a bunch of task databases from different projects that weren't connected because you didn't know how to like filter, you were kind of overwhelmed. So that allows you to have like maybe your personal task database and your work database of tasks viewable in the same spot. What really, so the way that you need to do that is going through your task database and saying, I want this to be my task data, like linked in my home as my task database. And you would need to map the deadline, the status, and the assignee. I believe those are the minimum properties you need to have them all talk to each other. So then that way they can be in a shared database on the home.
Mm.
So I think there's a couple features that they're trying to make it more receivable to people who have never worked with a consultant or don't have the patience to experiment. And it's, I think for me, it's like, oh, why would you do that when you can do all this? But I'm also not speaking from a perspective of someone who's just opening Notion for the very first time. Um, but yeah, I think that along with some future features, I think they still want to respond to the fact that there are so many people who still need a simple or who need something that works right out of the box, who don't have as much courage to experiment.
Yeah, yeah, makes total sense. Okay, I'll save the question I have in my head for later, but let's move on to getting things done. You mentioned, personal tasks versus like, maybe like work tasks, and you can have your own sort of space for both on homepage. But yeah, getting things done, like knocking out tasks, because I think one of the things that happens, especially for me, where I'm like, okay, I have a bunch of things to do, but let me organize first. Let me just clear the head, and then
Mm,
I get into this rabbit hole of just like endlessly optimizing the system, which is like if the system is not productive in output, you could argue the system is inherently useless, right?
Yeah.
We just like build the system for the sake of it, right? Build processes for the sake of it. So what are some things you've learned, using the tool, but also like actually like getting stuff done with the tool or the platform Notion?
Yeah. I think Notion cannot. So this is something that I've seen a lot of my clients kind of struggle with too, is that Notion's going not going to solve the fact that your tasks are not clear. What I mean by that is, does when you're putting something as a task, is that really something that can be achievable in a short amount of time, or is that actually a project that requires multiple steps? Like working on your marketing, that's not even a project. That's like an area of like something that would always be worked on over the course of a year potentially. And so oftentimes I see people like misunderstanding what is a task or which is a project. And I think tasks and projects are very similar because they have a defined time in which they're going to be done and completed. And so when you're able to kind of turn your project into more dissectable pieces, something that can be maybe even done within a day, maybe at most a couple days if you're a little perfectionism mindset. Um, but I think if you're able to kind of break it down, then you're able to utilize filters in Notion where it's like, okay, what are some things that I can accomplish on my phone, or what are some things that are need to be that I've assigned to do today versus the deadline, because you can kind of work retroactively from the deadline on when you're actually going to accomplish it based off of your own schedule and what space you have in your own day. And I think when you're only filtering, say you have 30 things on your to-do list and you filter by things that you're actually assigning yourself to do today, maybe you only have three. It's a lot easier to take action on a filtered list of three tasks versus like, oh my God, where do I even begin for this 30 list of 30? So there's like stuff like that. Filtering by status could be something like you want to finish things that are already in progress. And when you start to get into that habit of like, okay, I'm landing on this dashboard. This is what I need to do today, do it, and then move on, then you're able to really focus because you're allowing yourself to take care of future you by assigning those properties on when things need to get done. And you can trust that system once it's like, okay, these are the only things that I've given myself to do today. Let's do it. Like what other you can't make any other excuses. You only have this page with items at your on your plate. So utilizing filters and views to be like, okay, minimizing what you're seeing at any given time.
Yeah, I recently came across a tool called Sunsama. Do you know it, Jenny?
I'm not familiar. Sunsama.
Yeah, so it's yeah, like a productivity tool as well. The core basis of it is like it's to-do list on a calendar timeline, so separated into days.
Yeah.
Um, so it's like again, going back to what you're saying is like, okay, three things I need to do today, right? I think one of the, I guess, the mental models around sort of this interface or what forces like behavior is like, here's your day. How much can you fit in? Because we all overestimate what we can do, right? Without kind of planning that day ahead or having buffer. So it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
that long list of like not done is like like crazy, right? So with like the concept of time boxing and tasks on a calendar helps. And I believe because now Notion has Notion Calendar, you can actually plot that on your calendar, right? Link those things together, and it could be a nice visual cue for like allotted 2 hours for this task, 3 hours for that task, and that's it. That's 5 hours of deep work, and we're lucky if we even get that every day, right?
Yes.
So yeah, just wondered if you've heard of that tool, and also is that something that you do? Sort of time boxing task with Notion. How do you think about time and task here?
Yeah. I had not heard about that tool, but I wrote it down because I will look into it because I am interested in just seeing like what the context is. And I'm also wondering like how would I rebuild this in Notion? I like to do dupes of like other tools and see if I could rebuild it in Notion. And so it's really fun. With time boxing, I was kind of already building it in my head as we were talking, is wanting to have a property that is like, when are you going to actually do the work? So it's separate from deadline. When are you going to actually do that work and have that and show a calendar view based off of that? And once you have that calendar view, you can click view in calendar. That'll give you that view in Notion calendar. So you can see that next to your Google calendar, all of your appointments and your meetings together. And then that way you can toggle on when am I actually going to do the work in between those meetings. And if you're somebody who has back to back meetings, maybe that's when you start to realize I have no time to actually get this task done, even an hour in between. So that deadline is impossible. So I think having that context of seeing things when you're able to kind of adjust when you're going to do them in the calendar. So then it talks to Notion, and then you can look at those deadlines too. So that's how I like to do it. And I think, especially when you have big chunks of time in which you can accomplish things, it gives a little bit more structure. Otherwise, you're like, well, what do I don't need to do anything today. I have no meetings. But in fact, yes, you do. So that's where having small tasks are very helpful because you can insert a 30-minute task in between your meetings or a 15-minute task. And I don't know about you, but like having like when you have like a really boring task, the only thing that gets me really motivated to finish it is if I have like a very tiny window of time to do it. Kind of like what me and my husband do, and like for a commercial break, we're like, how much dishes can we like finish and like wash? Like by the time this commercial break is over, it becomes a game in that way, and then you find yourself completing a lot more when you have a specific deadline. Even more so when it's a tiny deadline that for something that's really boring. So little helpful thing there, and
That
why you
that's
should.
a really good productivity hack. Like I'm 100% doing that with emails. Like
Yay!
I'm gonna just like 3-minute email. How many can I get through? And just have 3-minute chunks.
Yes, emails are so hard because you're like trying to make it personal and then you're like trying to make it read. And then imagine just like having like 5 minutes, like, oh, you could like power through. And it just became so much more exciting at that point that you're just like, okay, so the more boring something is, give yourself less time. You don't have to spend too much time on that. And you don't want to. So yeah, fun.
How do you think about, like, you work for yourself and there's like a million ideas and things that come up. How do you think about your capture process? Like capturing that and then putting it into somewhere in Notion, because sometimes like you don't want to do all the properties and set up. You want something like almost analog feel where you can just write it down and it's somewhere and then it gets like pushed and reminded. How does that look for you? Do you have like something crazy set up, or is it more simple than that?
I think so. At the very minimum, it's like very simple. Like most of my structure for my personal lands in just the four like main buckets of projects, areas, resources, and archives, which is from the Building a Second Brain by Tiago Forte. And what I like to think about it is like, is this urgent? So it's like it scales from urgency to like what's old. Is this something from something old that I just need to put in my archive, or is this something that is about like a upcoming project that I need to accomplish soon? So, or that I'm actively working on. And because it's so flexible, where it can go from projects to like something that you're building out a lot more like areas, then I'm able to be like, okay, this is for this project that I'm currently working on like tomorrow. That's for that project. And I try to go my best there. I try to plug it in to the thing because I tried in the beginning to create an inbox. I never went back and reviewed it. Like it just became a mess. So I like to use Command P on Notion to be able to quickly navigate to whatever page I'm going to and drop it at the top of that page. So at least it's above the fold. And I like to put like a like at least apps today. So that'll automatically inherit today's date. So then that way I know when did I add this or any context because it's top of mind. And sometimes it can be distracting because you want to give yourself context in the future because it's a little distracting from what you're currently working on, probably. But any context that you can give future you will allow you to take quicker action in the future. So I'm constantly reviewing all these notes that past me had created and it's saving me time. I hope in the long run. I like to think it does. But I think like at least I'm not trying to figure out what past me was thinking when they dropped in this random thing, you know? So I think having that context, whatever you can do is cool. Even a screenshot can provide a lot of color to that too. So yeah, quick way of adding stuff.
So it's areas, projects. Oh, wait, what's the acronym? PASA. No,
PARA.
PARA. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so, yeah, so it's like projects, areas, resources, and archives. And those folders can be like projects, or sometimes if they're going to be finished, they can go into your archive. Or if they become a bigger part of your, like maybe you even develop that into your business, that can be a whole area. Um, Resources is a tricky one because I think those ones don't have a specific time. Those are just things that you're building curiosity around. So um, for me, I'm trying to develop a curly hair journey right now. I'm trying my best, but I'm just keeping track of all the products that I'm using and the processes that I'm using to hopefully get into just more healthy, natural looking hair. And that's happening in resources. I have my closet in resources. There's a bunch of fun stuff that don't have a project assigned to it yet in resources. So um, yeah, it can be very fun in that way.
How like talking about like productivity systems, because
Yeah.
the power method, as you said, from building a second brain by Tiago Forte. Have you tried any other productivity systems that you're like, oh, this was interesting, but not for me? It seems like the power method, the one that you're talking about, you're quite
Yeah.
bought in. But are there any other ones that you know you have tried or recommend at least giving it a shot?
Mm. I've seen a couple, but I honestly haven't really dove into them too much.
Yeah.
I know that August Bradley has one. I know that even Thomas Frank has like another approach to using Notion. And I think with holding on to the para method, I think just having some sort of like main structure and allowing a lot of flexibility with that has been the best for me and what I've seen even when I'm applying it to my clients too. Because ultimately the idea of the system is just what is something that's very urgent, like that idea of cleaning up your properties. You just want to see things that you're utilizing a lot. And it's easier in which you only have a very simple structure, only two places where it's like, these are things that I'm working on, these are things that I'm not.
Mhm.
And when you have the sidebar, you want to be able to quickly navigate to what you're working on. Otherwise, you're like, how do I get to that database that's for this? And I found that it's been like after 5 years having done this for almost full time, it's like it's just becoming it's just been the mainstay in the system because it's like it doesn't have to be anything more than what it is. Obviously, I'm creating a lot of complexity within those, but by having something that's so simple at the starting point, it's easier to know exactly where things need to take and also how to track it against what your big goals are.
Mhm.
Because if you're working towards something that's really important to you, your mission statement, your purpose, or whatever you're currently working on, I think it's easier when you only have four things to manage and take care of versus I have to think about that in 20 different areas or 20 different like logistics versus what am I currently working on and what I'm not. And you can even have just those two buckets if you want to be even more simple, but
Mhm.
we use like
What
categorizing.
what does your yeah, like, because I was gonna ask you, like, that sounds really cool because, 4 areas, they each, are defined by something, and it's kind of like, very easy to sort of, like, think about those, projects versus areas, right? But what does your sidebar look like? Because over the years, it's like, yes, you have, like, maybe the main things you work on are your workspaces,
Yeah.
but it might be, like, endless. Like, like, is it endless? Because I save everything to favorites for some reason, and it's just pinned to
Yes.
the top. Okay.
So I think I don't know if you'll see it from here, but
Let
there we
me,
go.
1 second. Okay. Can we
No,
see
it's
it?
not going to show because it's a little
No.
bright.
Yeah, we can't see it.
But it's only so in my private like section, there's only like four main pages that I'm using. Yeah, it's too dim. Um, my camera's too bright for here, but I think it's only like four main pages, and I think using favorites for things that are urgent are really important because those are things that you're actively working on. So that gives you an insight on what you're currently working on, and favorites are a lot more flexible. So I tend to just use projects, areas, resources, and archives, and nested within those, I have um, a bunch of pages that I can access a little bit easier. So with the increase of features, the sidebar is starting to get a lot more overwhelming because there's things like inbox, home, meetings, Notion AI. Then you also have like um, upcoming soon for for people will be custom agents. Then you have team spaces and then pages that you're sharing with people. So people who are going to be guests that you need to give them access to. So all of those different things that starts to grow your sidebar. And if you have too many things happening, it's like where the heck do you go? So I like to just have like a very simple starting point of four main pages, and that's where everything is going because it can get very overwhelming.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, yeah, no, that was good. I was just wondering. Yeah, it's really fun to nerd about Notion sometimes. And I mean, I'm in it all day. Okay, so we've been talking about Notion a lot. Is there something that you're like, God damn it, I wish they would improve, or like, is there something about the product that's suboptimal, or like, what's on your wish list? If it's not suboptimal, is there a wish list
Mhm.
somewhere?
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest things that so they've introduced page level access. So
Mm,
that technically what we would be considering database row access. So you can assign different tasks to like clients and they would only see the tasks that they're assigned to, which is really great for reporting, really great for like different entries. But what I would be really excited about now is column based permissions. So, say
mm,
if you wanted to get the profitability of a single project, but you didn't want your designers or people on your team to have to necessarily see it, that's something that I think would be really cool because then you can track all of that information for for the same database, but only have some people see it because maybe only sales or finance need to have that information. The designers, the videographers, they don't necessarily. It could be helpful to them, but you don't want to distract them from their work and what they need to be focusing on. So um, there are ways of using something like customized layout to kind of hide things from
mm.
people, but yeah, it can get a little tricky because I think most people they want to make it foolproof for others to not have to worry about certain things. There's also other ways of like using relations to kind of hide things. And to kind of like be honest, I think I get excited on trying to figure out how to solve these problems with what we already have because who's to say that they may never ship one of these ideas or that one of the things that we need are going to happen. So I think trying to not expect those changes because like even learning from the Notion team on how complex it is to even introduce a feature because say if you introduce a feature it's not only going to affect the pages, it's going to affect how people experience databases, the inline databases, these dashboards that people are creating, like the tiniest little update to the interface can just like blow up a whole other thing. And there's so many different features that you kind of don't want them. I don't want them to change it too much. like
Yeah, yeah.
don't it too much.
Uh,
so
yeah, that makes sense. So they, I don't know if you've heard about this. I'm trying to figure out what day it was, but they basically, I think, either acqui-hired. It seems like an acqui-hire, or they just hired two of the founders at campsite.com, which was like a collaboration tool. Designers really loved it. And so one of my favorite designers, Brian Lovin, is at Notion at the moment. I think this was
Hmm.
sort of last year.
Yeah.
So the question is, do you know what they're working on? As you're more on the inside than I am. What, like, are they launching a Slack competitor? Are they like what else are they doing? What are they cooking up here?
So I have no information on that yet. But I think they're trying. It seems like they're trying to like create more opportunities for people to collaborate with each other
Mm,
in terms of possibly competing with the Google experience and just allowing people to have a more interconnected experience. I think that vision, if that is what they're aiming for, is definitely a ways off. And they've launched things like Notion Mail, Notion Calendar. They exist. Still, are they working in the way that feels seamless yet? Like, not quite. And even as a Notion, like a certified consultant, I love that I'm not a member of the company because I can speak very freely and candidly about it. And I think I haven't even been using Notion Mail because of what it does to my signatures. Like it changes the way that Google is receiving these signatures. And then all of a sudden the threads become this giant mess.
mm,
And I don't want my clients to be seeing that. I want them to I want it to be clean. And I think they're like maybe in the future, but I don't know if it's because Google is trying to keep people within their ecosystem. And to be honest, like all of these solutions, like they're still like skins for Google. Like we're
yeah.
using Google Calendar for Notion Calendar. We're using our Gmail accounts for this Notion Mail. So it's not like they're creating anything that is so separate from Google. It's just they just want to tailor the experience. And I think there's so many facets to these areas that it's like they could possibly like make a better chat. I think they need to fix like in terms of wish list, they need to fix like the inbox. Like sometimes that could be very overwhelming, and unless you're tailoring it to yourself and cleaning it up all the time, it can get very overwhelming of things that you have to look at. You get notified for when people assign you to things, and if we're assigned to a bunch of tasks all at once, and it's like that's very overwhelming. Sometimes I have clients that are okay with that too, and I'm like, okay, you want all those notifications for everything? That's cool, but sure. But I think when you want to have visibility, it can be very important. And I think also being okay with, and this is maybe my critique of Notion, it's like I don't think they need to be everything for everyone. I think some of the best things that like when you go to restaurants, you don't like going to the restaurants that are good at a bunch of different foods or cuisines. You want to like go to the hot dog stand that has fire hot dogs or fire burgers. Like you want to go to their specialty. And I think a lot of tools are trying to be everything, and it's like, well, just do your thing, and you can talk to each other. Like, go ahead and have integrations, but I think there maybe it's just being in. Maybe there's other factors where people are encouraged to create very robust tool families, maybe in software. So I think we'll see. But I think it can be very overwhelming. I think I actually did hear about the Campfire hires, and I think they may be working on it. It just hasn't been released to us yet. Not even an alpha that I've heard of. So,
Okay. Okay. No, I completely agree with you. Yeah, Notion does the thing it does now really well, and then they acquired Cron, which is Notion Calendar. I'm a user of it as well, and that's fine because it's just like nicer UI, great. But yeah, same with you. Notion Mail was a big step forward. So yeah, the jury's not out there yet. Like in terms of how good that product is going to be, in terms of how seamless it's going to interact with the other parts of the system. But yeah, I mean, exciting. Hopefully, they launch more stuff that actually makes the core experience better and not just like a tack on. And I think that would not drive away a lot of users, but just low adoption. Like that's a bet that probably not worth making. But anyway, um,
hmm.
yeah, thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's interesting this idea of like features that will help promote the product, or like that will just help with the usability of the product, because that's definitely a lot less sexy than like, oh, we've introduced Notion Mail versus we've introduced column based permissions. Like, who cares? I care about that personally, but it's not something that you can share with most people and not, that automatically feel like they're unlocking something. So I think maybe even in this quest, like this understanding of us as content creators, we know what it takes to like take a complex idea and try to distill it and share to masses of people who don't know what they might be missing. And so I think there's this like push and pull of like things that people need, and also just like sharing what they can do with other people. Mail is a big um it's a big area that everyone knows about, like email, like everyone has an email. So I think they're trying to address what people interact with on a regular basis and try to solve points for there. And I think with the updates that they've done with Notion Mail, it's getting better. I'm still like just upset about my signatures because I just like I don't want to ruin the user experience of the people receiving emails from me. Like that's just it's just tough.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We're a little bit over, and we've just spent an hour nerding out, so
Yes.
this is awesome. But I do want to give you an opportunity to talk about the thing that you're doing that's launching in January,
Yes.
and of course, take as much time as you want. Let me just flash it on the screen real quick,
Yeah.
and yeah, um,
Yes.
let me know when I can jump back on, but all good. Just take some time to explain what it is. And of course, we've been nerding out. So you guys already know that Jenny knows her stuff, but I'm just going to hide myself. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye, Chris. And so what is on the screen right now is Creative Flow Academy. So I had started my business originally as a designer. And so when I was a freelancer, this is something that I was using a lot, which is building my own knowledge system. And that's how I launched my business. That's how I started working for different agencies, including Pentagram. I worked with designers also at Spotify and Strava, helping them build out solutions to help them organize their work. And having all that time building out, working with different agencies and companies, I wanted to kind of go back to my roots of why I started my business, which is helping creatives unlock their potential and building these systems for themselves. So that way they can organize their work and feel more ownership. So I think, so I'm relaunching, it was originally a one on one coaching program, and I'm relaunching it as a cohort. So that way I can help and serve more people. And there's also going to be an opportunity if not joining with us live is not in your interest right now, you can also join the course and watch the videos on your own time. So that is also available to you too. And I'm really excited to share that with more people. I'm excited to get it launched because it is something that I'm especially passionate about and would hope to see you there. So yeah, that's it.
Awesome. When is the cohort starting for the folks who want to join,
Yes.
yeah, in a group session?
So that is going to start January 8th. So to give people a chance to start fresh with the new year, we're going to jump right in. I have two members already going to be joining us already. I think Maria, who actually was sharing her comment in the beginning, she's going to be joining us again. And I have a couple more people joining us, hopefully. So we'd love to have more people. But yeah, I think this is also born out of the want of growing my business. I'm starting to help a lot more of the agencies, but I realize that individuals can still use help in making them feel like they have control over their work, slow things down, and building like a knowledge system of things that can really help them make decisions in the future and get the projects, the work that they want to do. So yeah.
Sounds
Moving on.
amazing. And I've already learned so much from you from this conversation. So I'm sure the cohort or the course is going to be packed with a lot of information. So guys, if you're interested in learning more about how to organize your personal knowledge base and build your own system, then you guys got to check this out. So I'll just leave that there. Jenny,
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining and sharing so early as well. Really appreciate that. It was 7 a.m. for you. That's when we started. So yeah, thank you. I won't take any more of your time. Go grab your coffee. But again, thank you for joining us on the last session of the year as well. So that's nice.
Well, have a good holiday. Thank you so much for having me, Chris. Really appreciate it. And yeah, hopefully we all get what we'd like to accomplish in the new year. So
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, feel free to drop off. I'm just gonna do like sort of the outro, but if I don't speak to you before Christmas and New Year's, have a happy holidays, and I'll see you in 2026. I nearly got the year wrong, but yeah.
you got it. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Okay, see ya.
See ya.
All right, guys. Again, I just want to remind you, if you're interested in Notion and learning more about it and building your own system, again, as we were speaking, it doesn't have to be complex. Building something small just to organize, work stuff or personal life stuff. Check out Jenny's Creative Flow Academy. Scan this QR code. Her cohort starts again on January the 8th, I believe she said. So you have a couple of weeks to make your decision, but you don't actually have long. Okay. So of course there is the course version, but I would argue that the cohort is probably a lot better. Like you actually get personal time and like consultation. So it's way more personalized to you. So go check it out. Scan that QR code. For Jenny's Creative Flow Academy. A few things I do want to bring up before we go. Our next live stream is January the 7th, and we will be speaking about how to make better design decisions. So to listen to that and future episodes, live.uxplaybook.org. You just need to scan that QR code, either one, somewhere on the screen, to listen to that and more conversations. Again, you can find us on YouTube if you're watching from LinkedIn, vice versa. Just search my name or Chris at UX Playbook or Chris from UX Playbook. And again, this is the last stream of the year. I believe we've done, I'm gonna say 30 this year. Unsure where we're taking it in terms of, am I gonna do it every week? Am I keeping it to twice a month? Are we going to do office hours? That was something that I was planning because it'll be cool to answer more questions in an uninterrupted time without guests, just me kind of like spitballing with you guys. But I just want to say thank you so much, everybody, for if you've tuned in, listened live, asked questions, or even just watch the shorts and snippets on YouTube, wherever you've interacted with this show. Thank you so much. And I want to commit to making this a lot better. And how we're going to do that is I need your help, right? I want your help in terms of knowing, well, what do you want to see more of? How can this be more helpful for you? Who would you like me to bring on? And all those things, like any ideas to make what we're doing now better, more useful, more engaging, more interactive, whatever it is. Any idea is up for grabs. So I want to make you part of this show and creating what next year looks like, basically. So again, join live.uxplaybook.org to get notified for upcoming. And also I want to send out a survey so you can leave your ideas, feedback, or anything else you can think of that would make this better. Okay. So go to that, drop your email, and I will send out a survey before the end of the year. And you can literally write as much as you want or as little as you want. That's up to you. So with all that, that's quite a long outro. I typically don't do it that long. Until 2026, the last time I'm going to say this in 2025 is bye. This is the design of everyday people.
It sound right, boy.
This is the design of everyday people.